Hi guys, I'm Rohit. The talk today is going to be on CDP and how we can use the CDP protocol for testing web applications. So that includes any SPA based application like React or Angular or any other server side application. So when it comes to automation or testing, we are primarily used to using Selenium for testing. And we had a tool to automate these things with Selenium for any browser that you once record it and then you execute it again and again for any browser. But we moved from Selenium to CDP, and the talk is going to be about the benefits of using CDP versus Selenium. So the DevTools protocol is basically, once you have the inspector open in Chrome, anything you do over here is what is being done through the CDP protocol. So in the backend, it's just the protocol, and the UI is the front end. I just have an MD file. I have not created a full-blown presentation, but the protocol can be used for a lot of things. Browser automation, one of them, which we're going to talk about, but as well as for profiling JavaScript and diagnosing performance issues. So this audit. This audits panel in Chrome Developer Tools is an open source project called Lighthouse by Google Chrome, which is completely based on CDP as well. So CDP is a low-level protocol, but Puppeteer is one of the libraries that Google has written, which is an interface to CDP. So no one has to use the protocol directly, just like WebDriver is a spec of Selenium, and individual browsers implement the spec like Gecko driver, Chrome driver, NI driver. Just similar to that, Puppeteer is an interface on top of the CDP, which we can use to drive around the Chrome browser with the protocol. So another important thing is that if you're using Selenium in Chrome, then the Chrome driver is also behind the scenes is using the protocol, CDP protocol. It's just it's transparent information. But it is also acts as a CDP client. One important thing to note is that Selenium can be used cross browser. You can use it for Firefox, you can use it for IE, but CDP right now is just for Chrome. But there are initiatives in place as of right now. In fact, talks are going on to maybe see if this can be converted into a W3C initiative, a spec there. But right now, and there are some adapters to bridge between CDP to IE protocol and others thing, but it doesn't work that well. We're just limited to using it on Chrome as of now. So I will give you a demo of how this works, but we want to first talk about the advantages of using CDP versus Selenium and why we shifted from using Selenium to CDP. So one of the important things that Selenium doesn't have is since it just simulates user behavior, they did not implement HTTP headers. So you cannot fetch the request and response headers in Selenium, and this was a big issue for us because we have an extension with which you can record the test cases. But you may accidentally record the test case on a localhost application because it's working on your system, or the application which works on your system because you're inside of a VPN. But then when it will execute on the cloud, it's not going to work. It will just say result in 404, which we can't grab from Selenium. And we at the time wanted to give a suggestion that maybe you're behind a VPN, maybe the URL is localhost. So we had implemented. So we went around looking in Chrome driver and Chrome source code, and we found something interesting that if the site cannot be reached, then the location that is provided by Chrome is this special string. It's just for Chrome, not for Firefox or IE, just in Chrome. So by checking that, you can say that that ultimately the site is not reached. It's a 404, and we were able to give some suggestions. But this is one of the shortcomings of Selenium, that you can't get this response header. There are some other ways, like using a browser extension or using a proxy. Going through Selenium by using a proxy, we can get that, but it's time consuming to have this implemented. So in Puppeteer or CDP, we have access to the request and response headers. So we can easily give this suggestion to people that they have done the record, their website is not accessible to our cloud. Another aspect of CDP was that, as of right now, that once Selenium is driving the browser, you cannot open the console because CDP is a single client protocol as of right now. And we had a lot of issues because we want to debug failing test cases, and we want to open the inspector to debug what's going on, and we can't do that. But this is going to change starting Chrome 63. The DevTools protocol is going to allow multiple debuggers per page. So as you're running the test cases, you can also open the inspector and see the network activity, see what's printing on the console and other things. If you've written, anyone here has written Selenium test cases, then you'll know that you have a lot of sleep statements in your code base, in your testing code base, because you need to wait for, after a click is made, you need to wait for that click to go through to perform the next function. And we in the product had added implicit, somehow managed it to do it implicitly, that if after a click, let's say you are looking for a selector, then we're going to wait implicitly for the selector to be present. But right now we have to do it in Selenium to wait for AJAX request to finish. If you are using jQuery, you can use the jQuery active flag, which is a count of the number of AJAX requests that are ongoing by jQuery, just by jQuery, not directly through the XML interface. You can implicitly wait for the selector to be present. So if you are clicking an element and then the next step is click this element, then that element's locator, you can wait for it to be present on the page before doing that. And it's a big issue. It worked 90% of the time, but sometime it had to time out after a while. In Puppeteer, we have access to page lifecycle events, and we also have access to the network domain, which means that once a page has loaded, we can ask for it to notify us that the load event or the DOM content loading event has fired. Among other that, if the load is not happening, just an AJAX request, then we can, using network domain, we can snoop on the request and say that this request was made, but the response has not received. So technically, the request has not finished. So we can wait also on that. Similarly to that click element, yes.
So in one of my app, while testing with Selenium, so I was testing an Angular app, and I was not able to determine whether the page was loaded, but the Angular didn't
compile it.
So
right.
How is this problem getting solved here? So like when you say it waits for the selector to be present.
Right. So Angular is a slightly complicated scenario because once it loads, it has a compilation process in on the web itself. But I haven't personally tested it with Angular, but the previous thing we did with Selenium and implicit waiting, it used to work most of the times. That the implicit wait meant that things were just working fine. But if inside of a click or some other event on the page, you can technically in Angular just use the compiler over there as well. You make some change and then ask it to compile in the directory or something. I used Angular a while back. For that, we may need to have some additional code added, but it should, in most cases, handle it, the implicit waits. But yeah, if you're Angular to be 100% sure, you should theoretically, for just like Protector does it on the UI side, they hook into the Angular compilation system and then they wait for it to finish before performing this step. So clicking is the same. You click an element. How do you know whether the page has navigated away? Whether it's a navigation or not, it can open a modal. It can fire an extra request. So the challenge is really to detect whether the click will even result in a navigation or not. So this is a code that we use in Puppeteer. We are actually waiting for the load event to fire before resolving this promise. And we are also waiting for the network idle 0. This basically means that there are no ongoing requests because so we are basically snooping on the request with this. Else we time out after 5 seconds, and this is all inside of a promise, so it will resolve after one of these returns, and then we'll do the element click.
That is not affected by WebSocket size.
So every type of request, any request that is going on. So it will just say that there are no ongoing requests right now. If WebSocket is opening a connection which is always open, then I haven't looked into it yet. But in that case, there's a network idle 2, which says that that almost all requests are done. Maybe 1 or 2 are ongoing. Yep. So this is the thing that it still could be implemented in Selenium. Implicit waits you could do, but now we'll talk about some of the things, additional things that there are that just are very hard to do in Selenium. So one is offline mode. With the rise of PWA's offline mode, you have progressive enhanced PWA, progressively web enhanced applications. So testing that in Selenium is almost impossible. So Puppeteer, since everything is this protocol, it allows you to simulate the offline mode, which means you can test your PWAs. You can test how your application will behave if the network goes off, in the middle of you browsing the website, as well as device emulation. This is really simple with CDP. You just require the device descriptor and say that I want to simulate, let's say iPhone 6 or iPhone or Nexus 6, and then you emulate that iPhone, and on the screen you'll be able to test your media queries and other things. Detecting sound. I mean, you can have an application which is a meditation application which says that we want to play some sound after, let's say, 5 seconds. Then you want to detect that for 5 seconds there's that pause in the sound, and after 5 seconds there's some sound. So this is not there in CDP right now, but it's there on Chrome, because if you open YouTube, it displays that sound icon at the top. So they are right now discussing whether this could be added to CDP. So once this is done, you'll be able to test an application if it's making a sound, if you'll be able to also record the sound if possible. So another aspect of testing is visual diffing. Basically, what you do is that you open the website, you take an image, baseline image, and then you open it at a later date and take another baseline image, and then diff and then see if it has matched or not. But if you want to do visual diffing, you have to animations can play an important role. If there's an animation on the page and you take the screenshot, after 1 second of the animation had played, then the two screenshot would be fundamentally slightly different. So you have to basically freeze animations. In CSS you could do it. You can inject CSS on the page and just freeze all the transitions and animations, or you can use JavaScript to get all the animation objects and freeze it. But then you have to inject this after every page request, because it will reload the page. In Chrome DevTools, you have the animation domain with which you can just cancel cancel the or pause the domain. You can set pause over here, or you can set the playback rate to 0, which fundamentally means that it's not going to be played at all. So other things quickly I want to touch on. For right now we want to test extensions, Chrome extension. There's no way. Neither Protector can do it, neither Selenium could do it. But Puppeteer has this thing called which is grayed out right now on the left. So it has access to that, but it's just not implemented. So once it's done, you'll be able to also test Chrome extensions using Puppeteer. You'll basically open them like this and provide the ID of the extension, and we'll be able to test the extension over here. Geolocation mock. Right now, for let's say if you're using Ghost Inspector for testing your application, when you say that I want to start a test, it will ask you where the server should spawn from, France, US, because to test the geolocation part. But you'll be able to mock the geolocation easily with CDP as well. So it's going to be easy. Upload finished. This is an unsolved problem that we had in Trinity, which was using Selenium. That if you're uploading a file, you have a form. Obviously, you click the submit button, and then only then if there's a hold request, then we know something is off or is going on. But if the upload is happening using Ajax, then we don't know when the upload is finished or not. So we have not implemented this yet, but we believe that it could be done using request looping. We just match with what the request was sent and that the response was received for that request. Controlling permissions. When you open a website, it may ask you to say that it wants to use your location or it wants to use a camera, for example. And if you say cancel, you want to test how the application behaves if you don't give that permission. There's no way to test it using Selenium. You can test it through CDP. They have not exposed it yet, but it is available. You can either directly use the CDP protocol because they have not exposed it in Puppeteer as of now. Some other things, detecting mixed content. If you are migrating a website from HTTP to HTTPS, then you can also inform the user of what's going on, and you can get logs and tab support. I'll actually quickly run a demo of a whole test suite using so Zindi is basically. I'll run the test case first. So this all is happening using CDP protocol behind the scenes. It's going to test out adding a product to a cart. So right now use yep, more or less this. So we had implemented this exact thing previously in Selenium, but we have moved away to CDP for the various benefits that we get over here. And this could have been done with just pure CDP, but what we had implemented over here are just certain high-level commands. For example, if you want to test on a page whether a text is present, then a naive implementation would be just send it, check on the mainframe. But the right implementation is to check inside every frame, and because there can be multiple frames on the page, and those frames can also have nested frames. So check inside of that as well. So so that's about CDP and how it it's we believe is the way forward of testing and automation. Any questions?
Is it like node mod?
It is a node module, yes.
No, there's a thing for Node.js for testing. It will automatically test the code like this, node mod thing.
Sorry, come.
Okay, node will make your node module.
Oh, so if it won't test. It's not a unit test library for node modules. It's you can write integration test with it of your application. So let's say you have application and you have various user flows. What one could be, starting a chat or adding a product to a cart or checking out, the process of checking out. So you can add a test for that exact thing. It basically simulates user behavior. If there's a button which is not visible because it's disabled right now, then it won't click it because this user simulation means that the user also would not be able to click it. But if you had a unit test, you can just test the checking out and ignore unit test doesn't care about the whole picture. Another thing I wanted to add, who would like to migrate to Puppeteer right away? And I think those are Phantom.js guys, because when Chrome Headless came out, Phantom.js, the lead developer of Phantom.js, has stepped down. So Phantom.js is currently not in development. So a lot of those people are migrating over to Puppeteer for the test cases, test suite.
Why is that?
Phantom.js developers stepped down because Phantom.js was basically headless Chrome. So when Chrome added headless Chrome in, I think, Chrome version 58, there's no further need for Phantom.js to exist. So that's why that guy stepped down. So I think most of the issues that we get in Puppeteer repo right now are from those people who are moving away from Phantom.js.
So what is the speed of this protocol versus Selenium?
Okay, yes. So that's an interesting question. There are three ways basically you could technically write it. You can implement everything in pure JavaScript, let's say. There are some things you won't be able to implement because JavaScript is a sandbox. For example, you won't be able to implement hover. Because if you can move the mouse theoretically from over here to, let's say, over here, but you will not incite the hover behavior because that's a trusted event. You cannot spawn trusted events with JavaScript. but you can just move mouse. So if everything would just implement in JavaScript, which is running inside the browser, then that was the best case possible, because there's no proxy in the middle. Everything is in JavaScript, and that's the fastest there is. The speed difference between Selenium and Puppeteer, I think it's going to be small difference, very small difference, because the Chrome driver is also implemented through CDP. If you look at that, so Chrome driver is also a CDP client. So these it depends on you how you implement it, basically some of the things. So, but a very negligible difference. There are tools out there which try to do it in pure JavaScript, and one is Cypress, which I believe is going to be faster than CDP itself. But because it's written in pure JavaScript, it's not using any proxy or protocol in between. Huh? I ran that example.
Code example. Basically, code for the test case study.
Oh, okay. Oh, that is. I mean, it's a. I did not write an individual test case, but we have let's say implemented some commands. No, okay. How do you improve brightness? Huh? Okay. Yeah. So click element, for example, is implemented using this. It's some functional programming is there. There's some lambda being used here, but this is click element. Element should contain. So this is exactly what you would have done in your code. It just right now they are commands, but you would have implemented them in a procedural manner inside your Puppeteer.js file. Similarly, for example, if you look at so what we do, so Puppeteer, what I don't like about it is that it throws a lot of exceptions, and we want to in the end just return whether the success was true or false. So we have to handle a lot of these exceptions over here. So one of the is page should contain, as I was saying. So what it does that it checks in every frame. So it's going to go inside every child frame and inside the child frame of that child frame as well, and check everything. So that's that's how we have built on top of Puppeteer. But I don't have a pure just public example. This is one if you want to, for example, open a browser in.
Compared to Selenium, in this we need to write a lot of code.
Yes. So if you're purely using Puppeteer, then yes, because Selenium or anything built on top of Selenium, like Capybara or Robo Framework, it provides higher level libraries, and that's what we are trying to do. But if you are just using pure Puppeteer, then you will have to handle every possible exception that it may throw, and all these scenarios.
So are you using any extra framework on the top of Puppeteer?
No, so we have our own product. So for that, I think he has built a library on top of Puppeteer, which exposes all those similar to Selenium. So Selenium has those keywords, right? Wait for something. So those keywords are implemented in this library. I think it's open source, right?
Yes.
We can
It
share
is.
a link for that as well.
And why is that every function is asynchronous over the script? And it's like a callback function.
True. So I'll just come to in a minute. So this is an example that I took directly from of emulating a device. So this is, I mean the whole browser is there, but it is emulating an iPhone 6 device right now. So I mean the library is.
You can't do this emulation in Selenium, right? You can do screen sharing.
You have to, yes, you have to decrease the size of the whole window. Basically, you have to.
Different than emulation.
Yes, that is. So Puppeteer library is a completely async based library. I mean, they didn't have to do it, but it is. That's the way forward with ES6, or async and await keywords are actually technically in ES7, but that's what everyone is doing right now. Async and await is the way to go, because the traditional way of writing JavaScript using the promise chain dot then, it creates a lot of callback hells. Either you do that, or you can do it in Puppeteer as well. Remove await and async and then just chain dot then callbacks function, or use this. And if you're writing JavaScript, this is the way to go going forward. Anything else? Okay, guys, thank you. Yeah, let me try.
Because right now, for us, we can, if someone has ReactJS, they can start using Cypress, right?
Yes. So Cypress is a tool, as I was saying, that it's purely done in JavaScript. And it's going to be way faster than any other solution. But the cost is that I haven't figured out how to do hover in this, because again of that sandbox thing. But here's the example of how Cypress does it. This Cypress is a tool for developers because you write unit tests using it. Puppeteer is trying to solve a different problem, but this is more fast. Plus, at any stage, you can see what the dome look like at that point in time. It's a real dome snapshot. So if you come here, this is how the dome look like.
This is Cypress.
Yes, this is not us. This is Cypress.io. Yeah, pretty fancy. Bilal, we got to know about this from you. Okay, yeah, this is Cypress, and how the way you write test. Yeah, so this is, since this is for developers. Yeah, you will write it just like this. Yeah. See why here is Cypress get and stuff. So just like Capybara, you can do this in your unit tests.